welcome to Mainland TV News. I'm Graham O'Brien and this Nelson Weekly News Roundup. Iwi-inspired trawler build, a Nelson classic bike collection grows, and much more. A project to change the face of fishing in New Zealand was launched in Nelson this week. A ceremony steeped in Māori tradition was held to celebrate the launch of the Fleet Renewal Project, with Archdeacon Andy Joseph blessing the keel of the first vessel under construction. This week's keel laying ceremony marked the beginning of the construction of a state-of-the-art fishing vessel that will supply the largest iwi-owned fisheries company, Aotearoa Fisheries in Tauranga. This trawler is the first being built as part of a $25 to $30 million and 6-trawler project for the fishing company. This ceremony was held at the office of Amex, the boat building firm constructing the advanced inshore fishing trawler. Attending the ceremony in support of the Fleet Renewal Project was Aotearoa Fisheries Limited CEO Carl Carrington, Amex Managing Director Steve Sullivan, and Nelson Regional Economic Development Agency Chief Executive Bill Finletter, who all spoke at the ceremony. Carrington told those attending that the ceremony marked the beginning of the biggest fleet renewal of its kind in New Zealand since the early 1970s. Mainland News understands that Minister for Primary Industries Nathan Guy was expected to attend but was a no-show. The average inshore fishing vessel is over 40 years old, and these new 24-metre 6-crew vessels will be more fuel efficient, require less maintenance and are less susceptible to changeable weather conditions. Aotearoa Fisheries considered options from around the world for design and build, but after adopting an Australian trawler design, they decided that their preference was to build locally, choosing to go with the Nelson boat building company, Amex. New Zealand's classic bike collection based in Nelson has added some brand new old bikes this week to their ongoing, growing display of collectible bikes and artworks. Mainland's Chrissy Small caught up with Dave Roberts at Classic Bikes in Haven Road, Nelson, to find out more about these latest acquisitions.
Dave, some new bikes have just come in, it's hot off the press, fantastic new collection. Can you tell me a bit about them and particularly this bike here?
Okay, we've got 12 new bikes that are new to the collection. Some of them are from New Zealand, from Hamilton, from a collection in Hamilton. The rest come from auctions in America. This bike that we've got here is a 1938 Peugeot 515, very much the state of French motorcycling before the war. Very Art Deco, as you can see by the colour and by the chrome and the seating and the aluminium mufflers.
When people say Peugeot, you automatically think motor vehicles like cars, but not bikes.
No, Peugeot were making motorbikes in 1902, and even 1901, well before they thought of making cars.
And look, I love this little tank business on the wheel here. What was that for?
That's for the oil for the engine. Even though this bike has a wet sump oil system on it, not a total loss, which a lot of others had, they still carted oil in them to make sure that they had enough oil on the long journeys so that they didn't seize.
Well, you know, look, I love the seat. It's obviously, you've got the pillion passenger seat there too. These look like the old bicycle seats, but wider.
Yes, they are, and they're very European looking. Basically, a lot of the scooters of the day, like Vespas and Lambrettas, all had these highly sprung saddles, and so Peugeot obviously used them because they were efficient, gave people a nice comfortable ride.
Okay, now we've got the BSA here. Now that looks like a classic 1936. I guess that's the year of its manufacture?
Yes, it is. It's a 1936 YB13 750 overhead valve BSA motorcycle. Probably one of the most deluxe bikes they made for the road, especially the pre-war bikes.
Right. Now Dave, look, we've got some fantastic vehicles. I love the one with the eyes down here. It's the early bike, I believe, of this collection. Tell me a bit about that.
It's a 1922 Nera car, but not because it looks like a two-wheeled car, but because the name of the man that designed and made them was called Nera Archer, was his surname. But people used that to make it think that it looked like a car.
Right. Look, I love the style of the handlebars. This is, of course, possibly where the motorcycle gangs of today get their styling from.
Oh, probably not. It was probably the vehicles were made so that people were in a more reclined position, you know, when they were riding it. A bit similar to some of the cycles that you see around nowadays. And the reason that it's got all the fairings and the coverings over the front is so that it kept your clothes clean.
Right, so it was a real ladies' bike, this one?
No, ladies and men. I believe they raced in the TT and Isle of Man TT on them. So they weren't just a easy bike, you know, they had some reasonable degree of performance as well.
Now I see it's got a gear lever rather than a foot lever.
Yes, that's just a hand, like similar to what was in the early motor cars, basically just a 2-speed, so you just click the gear lever instead of using your feet.
Okay, now look, tell me, this collection is brand new in. How many bikes are there in total that have just come in the door, and you know, like, what was the expense that went into it?
Basically, the expense was approximately 2 million New Zealand dollars, and we've got 14 bikes here, so that they've come into the collection as new additions.
So Dave, what is the oldest bike in this new collection?
It's this 1907 Indian that we have here, Indian Camelback, and it's named the Camelback because of the tank, petrol tank on the back mudguard that looks like the hump on a camel.
How appropriate.
Yes.
So look, this collection, obviously it's added to the rest of the collection here. Is this the best place to find the collections of bikes in the world?
It's one of them, it's on a par with them. There are others throughout the world that are probably larger and set up in a better situation, you know, with open glass and stuff like that. But this collection is to celebrate motorcycling as an art form and as an art, and if you can see by the artworks on the wall that we've got here and the way the bikes are set out, this is a living collection of the motorcycle art.
Next week we'll bring you an interview about a temporary arrival to the collection of a John Britton prototype bike. New Zealand's first railway, the Dun Mountain Track, could now be under threat of slipping into oblivion as the Brook Waimarama Bird Sanctuary's 4-metre high predator fence undermines the heritage track. I spoke with former Nelson councillor and Nelson Residents Association President Mike Rodwell this week about concerns he's been voicing to council since the beginning of this project. Mike, thanks for coming to talk to us today.
My pleasure, Graham.
You went to both councils, told them about your concerns about the Dun Mountain and the cutaway for the fence that they're doing. We've had a slip, we've got a new geotech report. Can you tell us a little bit about where we are now, do you think?
Graham, that's a very good question. This damage was predicted years ago, well, about 4 years ago when I first heard it was going to be so close to the Heritage Trail. It's a very steep section up there. We're talking, this particular section's between Four Corners and Third House, and for those that are go up there, it's a particularly steep section. And as a young man, I remember looking over the side and thinking, well, any activity below this railway trail, this original railway trail, the whole thing would slip away, and never envisaging such a very intrusive slip. Most people would think a fence line was probably not very wide, you know, 1.5 meters or something like that, but they have to take vehicles up to service it. So the bench is 2.5 meters. It's wow. A huge intrusion into the slope face.
And that slope face, is it 40?
Well, I thought it was about 50 degrees, but I see in the geotech report some of these sections there 60, 65.
So you're benching out a 65 degree.
Well, in some places,
slightly,
yeah. Well, I don't know how this interview will go, but I guess you'll touch on to the geotech report and the consent, because yeah, you're right, 50 metres, but sadly, in places apparently they've gone closer. We haven't been able to get up there for a look. We wrote to the council and they said it's too dodgy with the work going up there. So I've not physically seen it.
Yeah, we've got the photos from the geotech report, which we'll see. Yeah, that's the next issue is the resource consent. You know, they got a resource consent for it, which said they had to stay 50 metres away from things, and that's actually 50 metres straight down, basically. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, firstly, I think that's too close anyway, but I'm no geotech expert. But sadly, and I've been unable to get up there. But from the geotech report, we've been told that there's been breaches. They've dug it closer. Expediency, I suppose. It was just a.
Yeah, I've read in the report that was, you know, they come across real hard ground to dig through, so they went in closer. I mean, we're talking about resource consents. I mean, we know how hard council goes against the residents when they breach resource consents, as we know from the 25mm fence debacle that we're going through with council. Yeah.
Well, my answer to that, Graham, with the greatest respect for the homeowner on the corner of whatever it may have been, Vanguard Street, this is a 150-year-old heritage trail. This trail was built before the American Civil War.
Yeah.
It's an amazing piece. It's a wonderful piece of work that's been done, and it's got its national heritage status, being the first railway in New Zealand.
Well, and as a historical place, what does a historical society have to say about this work that's going on up there?
Well, all credit to Ken Wright, and maybe you should get him in the studio, and after this interview perhaps give him a call. But no, Ken's a good guy. He's actually done a submission on some of the Waterworks Reserve. But they were concerned, and they wrote to council, and they had a letter back to saying that would be some repair work done. So I guess in support of the Heritage Society, I'm a member of it actually. We can't actually do any more than that. We can write a letter of concern,
Sure.
and we've got a letter back and saying it's going to be fixed, but I don't know when and I don't know how. I've actually seen in this report some of the measures that they've suggested to fix it. I don't think, like my predictions of the track failing but with this work, I would predict that this won't survive either. The remedies, it's such a fragile area. I can't see these remedies being working either.
Just quickly, Mike, can you remember what some of the remedies are?
Yeah, there were two types. One was timber shoring, like we see, on a lot of places. The big tannalised posts, and the other one was Gabon bags with shot rock, and that's quite effective too, of a way of stabilising a bank. But because this is so steep, because the two benches are close together, the loading, and because it's about 4 metres in height, that the loading will be so great, that's just my humble opinion, that won't survive either. It's just one bad thing after another.
That's right. I mean, how much money are we going to pour into trying to fix something?
Well, that's frightening.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And just going back to the consents, when they clean up the Dun Mountain track, I mean, there's resource management consents and that go with that track. There's
definitely
things that they can't do to that track.
Yeah, there's conditions. I'm not that familiar with it, but I do understand that slip material has to be trucked off, moved away to sites, but not being able to get access. We wrote a year ago to get up there. The Nelson Historic Society and the Nelson Residents Association, we both wrote, and we both got letters back saying, we got no access. So, not sure what's going up there. I've seen very interesting photographs from mountain bikers that go up there, but I understand there's breaches probably every day and up and down all down the line.
Because from the photos from the Geotech report, I mean, the trees have been cut down and basically pushed over the bank.
Yeah, well, that's
and I've also talked to people that said that they're using that spill to make the gradient easier up that track.
Well, all I can say, Graham, at the time has definitely come now from the Heritage New Zealand to come and visit, send a field officer over and come and check it all out.
Sure, because like you say, this historic track, I mean, it's been in the New Zealand Geographic. It's had write-ups all over the place.
Our mayor, Rachel Reese, said it was a pristine piece of mountain trail, which it really what it was.
Small towns find it hardest in the winter months, especially those that are geared up for summer tourism. Motueka is one small town that is trying a new creative approach to bring people into its central business district. Motueka's High Street has launched its Swinging Art on High Art Walk. This project was conceived by the Motueka Arts Council and includes works produced by locals, artists, community groups, schools and participating businesses, who have adapted the summer basket hangers along High Street to accommodate a range of 80 art pieces. The aim is to encourage more people to visit the town and do the art walk, as well as locals to get out and see what their artists have made. All 80 hanging art pieces had to satisfy several conditions around weather tightness, durability, weight and safety. Organisers are hopeful that vandalism will not occur and are looking at this becoming an annual or 2-yearly event for Motueka's High Street. Margaret O'Connor is one of 6 people around the country who has thrown her hat in the ring as a candidate for the presidency of the New Zealand Nurses Organisation. Margaret spoke with me in the Mainland studio on some of the issues facing nurses in these difficult times and what she can bring to the organisation. Margaret, thanks for coming and talking to us today.
You're very welcome, Graham.
Why are you standing for this important position?
Well, the reason I'm standing is because I wish to raise the profile of the profession, and I feel like as the public spokesperson for the New Zealand Nurses Organisation, there needs to be somebody who's kind of got a courageous and articulate voice, not only for nurses and the profession, but for those that we care for.
Sure, yeah. And that's what they need, all right, someone to speak up for them. And what do you feel that you can bring to this role personally?
Well, I have a lengthy experience in community work, but I'm very down to earth. I'm a grassroots person. I've been a clinical nurse for almost 30 years, and I've been, I'm deeply sort of embedded in clinical practice. And I work for a DHB. 26,000 of our 47,000 members are DHB employees. And I've got common sense. I'm a mother of 6. There's a lot, that brings in its wake a lot of skills
Sure
to
does.
apply to many situations.
Yeah, mother of 6 is certainly a qualification for many positions in my book. It's a very difficult time in the health service at the moment. I'm sure many would agree. What are some of the real challenges that the nurses organisation is facing at the moment, and nurses in general?
Well, there are numerous issues for nurses. Probably one of the most important ones is safe staffing. Another issue is, as a result of that, is care rationing, where nurses are expected to prune, really, what they would normally do professionally in order to actually just get through the workload.
Yeah.
There's also we're a very ageing workforce. The average age of nurses in this country is almost 50.
Wow.
Which makes me well above average, I might tell you.
No, surely not.
And we've got, so there's a recruitment problem, there's even a retention problem, and so which, means that there is a shortage of nurses looming. And then there's also things like the accessibility to, regular professional development nationwide. That needs to be sort of addressed, because there is an expectation under the Health Practitioners Competency Act that nurses, maintain their professional competency, and that we have to keep pushing so that everyone has good professional development available to them.
Sure, I mean, it's a big worry, the more funding that gets cut, the more things get streamlined.
Exactly. Well, that's it. In real terms, the health funding is, diminishing all the time. And so nurses need to be courageous and speak out against a lot of what is happening publicly, particularly in a very corporatised scene, which we now operate in.
Yeah, and becoming more and more so. From what we see in the news lately. And when you say there's a shortage of nurses, is that because the nurses are not being trained and coming through our training, or that they're training and then leaving New Zealand, as many other of our young professionals are?
Yeah, that is some of it. There are within nursing there is what is called a NET-P program, which means new entrance to practice. It's a year-long sort of it's a paid position, but people are nurtured into becoming more fully fledged.
Sure.
And that theoretically, ideally, ought to be available to every graduate nurse, but it simply isn't. And so nurses are often not able to practice as they may have, planned to. And so, many do go offshore.
Yeah, and with the student loans that they have clocked up,
Right.
they have to do something to pay the bills and pay it off.
Yes, indeed.
So the priorities for you, for the Nurses Union, what would the priorities be coming up to this?
Well, for the Nurses Organisation, my priority really would be, I feel like we need to be not only a professional and an industrial organisation, but an organisation that truly addresses the mission statement of NZNO, which is about embracing the treaty, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and also having good access to health care for all the peoples of Aotearoa New Zealand, and having a voice in social policy and health making, decisions around health. Yeah.
Under the new Tasman Housing Accord signed with the government, Tasman District Council is now required to increase the number of houses by nearly 10% from the previous year, with the target of 300 houses this year and a further 320 now expected for 2016. Already in the Mapua residential area, new housing is rapidly taking place in what was once an orchard. This 80-section residential subdivision approved last year with what is looking more like infill housing north of Mapua Drive is well underway. TDC is currently considering a further 92 residential section subdivision application for another property between Aranui Road and Iwa Street that spans 10.2 hectares. A large area of Western Mapua has also been zoned residential with a total of about 63 hectares capable of accommodating 320 new houses. Plus development going on for rural residential from the Mapua Ruby Bay area and a wider area from Appleby and Hoddy Road south to Tasman in the north. All this growth around Mapua has already put a strain on Mapua School and the health centre in particular, with many more families and retirees attracted to the area for this quieter lifestyle. Unfortunately, residents have not been consulted about any of the new developments caused by reduced requirements for notification in the Resource Management Act passed by government in 2013, which seemed to be working well for developers. Now, some expect that the government will be placing strong measures to increase the pace of development and reduce notification requirements even further. And as TDC councillor Judine Edgar was quick to point out in an earlier interview last week over this accord, it is unlikely that provisions made will see any dramatic reduction for the home buyer. People helping people is what makes our community strong, and if that gives a new experience and skills to some of the disadvantaged members of our community, it just shows what a caring, thoughtful community we are lucky enough to be part of. Riding for the Disabled in Nelson's Richmond district is one such volunteer organisation who survives through the generosity of a local family that leases the land for $1 a year and all the people who give their time for the good of others. Shante, it looks really fun out there, but really what makes you come here and volunteer?
Well, I find it actually really rewarding. Getting out in the community and actually doing something that makes a difference. Like, instead of just sitting around all day, I like coming out, working with the horses, and when you sit there and you watch the kids actually make progress in their riding, makes you feel really good.
And how did you find out about this place to come and volunteer?
I actually found out on a Facebook site, just an online garage sales site for Nelson, and I thought I'll come in and check it out, and I started off doing a couple of days here and now I do 5 days a week. So, yeah.
It's pretty full on. And are you used to being around horses, or was it all new for you?
I grew up with horses, so I hadn't been around them for a little while, but we're sort of like getting on a bike.
For the community, thanks very much for all your efforts, and I'm sure the kids just love it that you're here.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Yeah.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Hi, I'm Sharon O'Neill and I'm back home and you're watching Mainland Television.
Hi, my name's Ian Mortimer. Mortimer Auto Upholstery is your one-stop shop for all your upholstery needs. We do car and boat interiors, boat canopies, ute tonneau covers, canvas and PVC fabrication. Call in and see us in Oxford Mews, 72 Oxford Street, Richmond.
We're the team at JCar, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics, toys,
sound systems, cables, and much, much more. JCar.
120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
Victory 60 Plus is on Tuesdays at 1:30 through to 3:30 p.m. at 238 Upper Vanguard Street. You can join in for cards, games and a cuppa.
Sit and Be Fit is on at the Victory Community Centre Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. at the Victory Community Church, 238 Upper Vanguard Street. School terms only. On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you for joining us.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
Welcome to Smugglers Pub and Cafe, open 7 days a week with free parking all day. Our lunch menus have that fat old-fashioned flavour where we treat you like treasure with the food you'll savour.
We cater for children, grannies and granddads too, with special rates and privileges given to the elderly lunchtime crew. Our staff are friendly and kind and want to see you all come back time after time.
Daytime or evening, it doesn't matter. Give us a call on 546 4084 and we'll be happy to spoil ya.
Why would you want to pay as much as $1,000 for a single bed mattress when you can buy a high quality locally made mattress like this for as little as $220? And a queen size mattress could cost you in excess of $3,000, but at Nelson Beds you could have a mattress like this as low as $425. So why would you go out and spend a fortune on your child's bedroom when you can come to Nelson Beds and buy a complete single mattress and base set, a 7-drawer Scotch chest, a headboard and a 3-drawer bedside cabinet for as little as $979? So call and discuss our custom manufacturing options and local after sales service at Nelson Beds, Nelson's only bedding manufacturer.
World War I was a defining period in our history, impacting greatly on the lives of people from the Nelson province. Memories of the First World War is an exhibition which will be displayed in a number of regional venues and is currently on at the Nelson Provincial Museum.
Hi, my name's Ian Mortimer. Mortimer Auto Upholstery is your one-stop shop for all your upholstery needs. We do car and boat interiors, boat canopies, ute tonneau covers, canvas and PVC fabrication. Call in and see us in Oxford Mews, 72 Oxford Street, Richmond.
We're the team at JCar, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables and much, much more. JCar.
120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
Hi, I'm John Crouch. I'm Craker Crouch Construction. We're general contractors here. We specialise in drainage, earthworks, concrete, gravel supplies. We have our own mobile crushers. So for all your contract requirements, call us on 5783 475 Blenheim or in 5736 119 Picton.